Okay, we're here for the pre-concert talk, Symphony of Southeast Texas, for the February 19th concert. Chelsea Tipton II, our music director and conductor here, as well as our soloist for the Robert Schumann piece is Claire Huangci. I guess starting things off, we're going to start off, this is going to be kind of interesting, Chelsea, that we're starting off with kind of the featured piece instead of a short piece and then go into the concerto. We're starting off with the Schumann Piano Concerto in A minor. Is there a reason why you decided to start it off with this piece instead of a little warm-up?
I think this piece is a good concert opener. I did have a conducting teacher to tell me, don't start a concert off with a piece that has multi-movements. However, this is a wonderful pairing with the Brahms Symphony No. 3. I'm going to talk about the Schumann a little bit to the audience. I don't usually talk about the concerto, but I'm going to say a few words about it and then introduce Claire. You're a wonderful pianist, and we're so glad that you've returned. You were with us several years ago with the Grieg Piano Concerto. What do you think about the Schumann? What are your thoughts on the Schumann Piano Concerto?
Well, actually, in my opinion, it's a nice piece to start with, because also for the pianist and for the orchestra, there's no warm-up. And it's also one of those concertos where we, conductor and soloist, we have to look to each other, because if we're not totally sure, the first downbeat, there's no time for the pianist to really get the hands in position. It's a difficult opening. So you need to be really locked in right on. And so I find that's actually a nice way to start the concert right from the get-go. This is a piece which also I had mentioned before, but as I played Grieg here last time, also in A minor, I do think that in the, let's say, if we're looking at it from a piano learning perspective, and we look at how the Grieg concerto has a lot of influences from this Schumann Piano Concerto. I would say this is like the advanced version, or what the advanced students would play after learning Grieg. And so that's a nice trajectory a little bit. And I love this piece. This is a piece which is all about dialogue, all about listening to one another, almost like playing chamber music with a big group, all together, breathing together, and that's kind of what it's about, and what we've missed a lot, what I've missed a lot in the last years. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And it's in 3 movements. Starts off in A minor, ends up in A major, and the second movement, attacca right into the third movement, which is just incredible. The third movement is just absolutely incredible.
It's like a tour de force. It's like perpetual mobile, and it just goes on and on. But there's this infectious energy which doesn't let go, and even until the very end, I feel the third movement it's a ride. And that's what's nice, because the piece, there are these 3 movements. Each one is totally unique. I mean, the first movement is a little bit more mellow in nature. It has outbursts, but it's so melodic. It has so much to offer from the woodwinds, beautiful melodies played by the orchestra, and so it's almost like really complementing this burst of energy at the end.
Now, is this Schumann Piano Concerto, is this one that is almost required that you learn, or one that you need to learn when you're a student? Is that one that you look forward to playing, or is it one that is in the mix with other concerti being one of the top ones to be performed?
That's a really interesting question, because I think with Schumann Concerto, it's not one of the ones that all pianists want to learn right away. Because when we're students, I'm talking from my perspective, of course, but we want to learn those war horses. We want to learn Rachmaninoff. We want to learn something like Chopin, Beethoven, like the pieces that we feel. Brahms for me a little less, because it was so big. But
it's big.
But pieces that like we would feel like will work, let's say, in competitions. Because that's one of the main things.
Mozart?
Yeah, 4 Mozart rounds in competitions, maybe, but a little bit less, because you want to play pieces where you can show off. And I think Schumann Concerto, because of this whole give and take with orchestra, it's a little bit less popular, because you feel like, but we're not able to show everything. Although actually in the reality, you show a lot more of your musicianship with a piece like this. And that's something you pick up with age. I mean, actually, I learned Schumann then relatively late. I think I learned it when I was 19 or 20, and so this is already kind of, you're getting out of your student time a little bit. And I also remember at the very beginning when I learned it, I thought, oh, there's so many parts, passages where I'm filler material, and it's hard to kind of keep the attention for those things without the orchestra.
Yeah.
So you appreciate it more and more.
And I liken the Schumann when you get that second movement, and then you're pretty much there, almost on your own towards the end, and then boom, you start off with that final movement. It just goes right from one to the other, and right then it's you have it's calm, and then whoo, you're woke up again.
Yeah, well, that's a bit about Schumann. Like he's a lot about drama, and he has mood swings also from the personal level, and you hear that a bit in the music. You hear this like very sudden. So as performers, you need to really be alert to all of this.
Yeah. And so you said that the Brahms piano concertos are not as ones that are show-offy, or is it more of a difficult?
Yeah.
They're very different. I mean, Brahms also, there's a lot of interaction, but from my personal standpoint, because I have very small hands, when I was a student, I actually just couldn't play them.
Yeah.
From a physical point of view.
So the Liszt piano concertos would probably out too.
Those are easier.
Are they easier?
Funnily enough, they are easier because
Liszt had those large hands too.
But they're octaves, and Brahms is more chords, and
okay.
that makes a big difference. Even though it's still the same, but for the hands, it's much more uncomfortable to play chords.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is interesting, because I tie that in with the Brahms, because we're going into the Brahms Symphony Number 3, which is it's what, like you said, kind of one of his darker ones, ones that's not as performed as often, but yet with some people like myself, when I look at the 4 symphonies of Brahms, the 3rd is my favorite.
For a lot of people, the 3rd is the favorite, and a lot of musicians in the orchestra have not played it as much. It's in 4 movements, and it's a nice pairing with the Schumann. Schumann, Clara, and Robert Schumann had an interesting relationship with Brahms, and so to have this on the same program, I think, is a nice pairing. If I had to say there's a kind of a theme, it's melody. There's beautiful melodies in the Schumann, beautiful melodies in the Brahms Symphony Number 3. It's in 4 movements. Each movement ends very quietly. It's one of the few symphonies. All of his other symphonies, they end very, kind of bombastically. But this one ends, each movement ends very quietly. And it really examines the more darker colors, the violas, the cellos, the bassoons. And I was saying that one of my teachers said to me that to get the Brahmsian sound, you bring out the second clarinet, second oboe, second bassoon, and so on. The more the harmonies of the orchestra, and that gives it a Brahmsian sound. It's a fun piece to play. It's difficult. It's awkwardly written, but if you can get everything balanced right, it's just magical. And one of the things this is my first time with the Schumann piano concerto. How wonderfully orchestrated it is. So we can always hear the piano. And there's things for the orchestra to do.
Yes.
We're talking about the Chopin piano concerto where the orchestra is playing all these long notes.
Yeah.
And we don't, it's so that the piano can really show off. In this case, the piano gets to show off, piano gets to accompany. We get to have kind of it's almost like chamber music, would you say?
It is.
Yeah.
It is chamber music on like the most intimate level, actually, with an orchestra, yet some instruments, they have really beautiful solos.
Yeah. And it's interesting when people find out I'm a conductor, they say, oh, everyone's following the stick. You're following it. No. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm listening to the orchestra's listening to her. She's watching me, I'm watching her. It should be this kind of synergistic conversation that's going on. Otherwise, the orchestra can become just a shadow. And that's sometimes we have to do that. That's okay. That's sometimes our role. But in a concerto, it's great when we have an artist such as Claire who kind of looks at the players and tries to make some type of connection.
I was wanting to ask you, Claire, is there a piano concerto that you haven't played yet that you are just dying to play?
I mean, actually, of course, the thing is, you don't know how you will feel about a concerto until after
Till
you've
after
played
you've
it.
played it,
So of
yeah.
course, there are some on my bucket list. Like, I mean, want to play something like Rachmaninoff Concerto Number 4. Like
Uh-huh.
next year is
Interesting.
Rachmaninoff year, so
Yeah.
I've played 1, 2, 3 and Paganini, but you just want to try Number 4.
Yeah.
But I think one of my very favorite pieces to play, which I cannot get enough of, and not many orchestras program, is Ravel Left-Hand Concerto.
Oh,
Things like
left-hand,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Why hasn't it done much?
I have no idea. It requires a huge orchestra, and it's basically his, I think, testament to World War One.
Yeah, yeah, he went
friend
for
of his.
Yeah.
Wittgenstein, the pianist
Yeah, it
who
was
lost
for
his
the
arm
yeah,
in
and
World
Ravel
War I.
also suffered a lot of
Yes.
horrors there, and so I
Right.
think that piece is almost like a war between orchestra. And
Isn't
left-hand.
Rachmaninoff's Fourth also one that was written for Wittgenstein
No,
too?
that's Prokofiev.
That's Prokofiev Fourth. Okay,
Yeah.
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 But
But-
yeah, they have you explored John Field?
I know his nocturnes,
Yeah,
but
but
that's
not
it.
his piano concertos.
No.
Yeah, he wrote 7 of them.
I'm sure they're
And it's interesting because listening to his second piano concerto, I hear a lot of what you would call Chopin-esque
Yeah.
Right.
things that were going to come later. But yet the orchestra was very much instrumental in working with him.
I mean, I think that's the testament to how deep the piano repertoire is.
Yes.
I mean, we listen to, I don't know, 5-10% of the big pieces,
Yeah.
but there's so much out there. And this is, like I said, my first time with the Schumann.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to do it for many, many years, and I'm so glad you're here with us. It's going to be a really wonderful
Yeah.
concert on Saturday night at 7:30 at the Julie Rogers Theater.
Now, have you done the third Brahms symphony
My
before?
first time
So
with-
this first time
First
for both
first,
works.
yeah.
All right.
And so it's nice to kind of expand my horizons and expand. And the orchestra's not. This orchestra has not done it before.
Yes.
The Brahms. So we're looking to try to show other things to bring to our community, and so we're so happy that we have Claire returning.
Yes.
And hopefully this won't be the last time you'll be
Hope
with
not.
us. We have other things we'd like to do as well in the future, but we hope that people will come out and join us for our concert. 7:30, Julie Rogers Theater with the Symphony of Southeast Texas.